Hello, my name is Matthew, and I got three Christmas presents for myself. Three books that I thought I would share with you. Uh, One I've already shown, but I thought I would talk about it again. And then two other books uh, that I just treated myself with. It's the end of the year, and um, I thought I would make an indulgence and get myself some books that maybe I any other time of the year would have put a lot more consideration into instead of falling into the festive indulgence of a Christmas time spending spree. So the first book that I've already shown is the Anabasis by Xenophone. I know very little about Xenophone. I've read very little. I've read some of the Socratic conversations that Xenophon had written, a very nice counterbalance to the Socratic dialogues by Plato. Just a different perspective and a different personality is shown through Xenophon of Socrates as a person and his philosophy. But Xenophon was also an historian, among other things. And he wrote this. I wouldn't have been particularly interested if it wasn't for watching other YouTubers, Steve Donahue talking about it. Mark Richardson had shown his copy of it. And also, what really pulled me towards this book is that it's the Landmark edition. This is my first copy of any Landmark edition. It's this tremendous work of scholarship with a series of books, including Herodotus and Julius Caesar. And it's a book, it's a series that one of the distinctive features is including an extensive array of maps for all of the military campaigns and travels that you'll often find in ancient works of history, and that's what this is. I was at the bookstore. I stopped by for three reasons. One, I was out and about and running an errand where the bookstore was on my way home and convenient to stop by. Secondly, I wanted to look for Christmas presents for my little niece, and I got a few nice little treats. And then third, that there were three books that I've had on my mind. This is one of them, and I was happily surprised that they had it out and available, part of the new release nonfiction section. I had a great big smile on my face. I scooped it up. Didn't even worry about the kind of large price tag for a single book. I just felt like, well, how that's just perfect. I'm going to get this. And the other two books are works of poetry. And I did my own due diligence. I went to the appropriate sections, went through the books, scouring around, looking, being happy about some things that I found that they had, and being aggravated about omissions that I felt that should be on the bookshelf and things like that. But the next step is that I went to the service counter, and I work at a customer service counter at an entirely different kind of retail store, and I'm standing in line. I'm the only person there. There's one person in front of me being helped by the customer service associate, and there's another person behind the counter just staring off into space. And the associate that's helping the customer is aware enough, having the presence of mind to be able to be present and attentive to the customer that they are helping, but also surveying the landscape and realizing there's somebody waiting, which is me, and turning to the person that is staring off into space and saying, there's a customer waiting. And like I said, I work at a customer service counter, and I know the person that stares off into space. I know the person that you have to tap on the head to let them be aware that there's there's a customer waiting. It's not necessarily the person that you want to have helping you. And that's the person I had help me. And I walked up and I said, do you have the flowers of evil? And the person, the first reaction was, is that manga? And I said, it's a work of French poetry. I kind of get it. I try not to be judgmental, but it did feel a little aggravating. It's not manga. But the person did their inquiry into their computer system. They didn't have the book, and rightfully so offered to order it for me and said, well, we can order it for you. And of course, I just thought, well, yeah, I can order it for myself as well. And cheaper. I would pay more now for the convenience. The convenience, the immediate sense of gratification is worth paying a little bit more, but I'm not going to order it and pay more when I can just order myself and pay less. So I ordered Flowers of Evil later on. I should say the next book that I asked for was Poems of Exile by Ovid, and this is a book that the exact edition that I was interested in finding, I just came across. I was watching A Cruel Reader's Thesis, Lukash's just wonderful channel. And he's had a couple really great videos recently. I can't remember the video where he showed his copy of Ovid's poetry in Exile, but he also had his favorite ancient literary works from Greece and Rome, which is really fun to read, really fun to watch. In any event, those are the two books that when I left the bookstore, they didn't have them. I ordered for myself. And this new edition of The Flowers of Evil really is just beautiful. It's a new translation by Aaron Puchagian, however you say that. And it's this striking pink cover. I really wish it was yellow, but that's just a preference. And it has a whole brand new English translation, but instead of being facing pages, which you often find in some poetry collections, I see it a lot in French poetry. Instead, it divides it completely in half, so that the front portion of the book is the brand new English translation, and then the back of the book is the second half of the book is the French, the original French. And if you are a French reader, you can just open up and then have the entire volume of The Flowers of Evil and just read it uninterrupted. I think it's amazing. Such an interesting decision. And I was looking at it. I've kind of dipped into it a little bit, but I was reminded it's been quite a while since I've picked up my copy of Flowers of Evil. I tend Baudelaire is one of my favorite French writers. I tend towards Paris Spleen more often. I don't pick up Flowers of Evil as often as I would pick up Paris Spleen. But there is an epigraph that Charles Baudelaire wrote for this volume, and I'll read it. So it's a dedication to a flawless poet, consummate magician of French letters, and my much loved and highly esteemed teacher and friend, Théophile Gautier. With feelings of deepest humility, I dedicate these sickly flowers. Charles Baudelaire. And these are the kind of things that, as a young reader, as a present reader, I absolutely just eat up. I remember the first time I read this, I had never heard of Gautier. I've never read Gautier. And it sparks that little bit of curiosity and sends me on a path of my own inquiry and detective work, and finding out that I love Gautier. But in any event, so I have this new beautiful edition of The Flowers of Evil as a Christmas present to myself. And then the second book, which I saw on Lukash's channel, A Cruel Reader's Thesis, is this edition of Poems of Exile by Ovid. And I feel like I was more interested, more aware when I saw Lukash hold up his copy, because in the month of November I spent the entire month solely reading Roman and Italian works of literature, fiction and nonfiction. So I sort of had Roman literature on the mind. This past year, I actually started rereading The Metamorphosis by Ovid. I read it years ago, and through the course of the year, I read I read half the book. It was part of my nighttime reading. It was never a primary book, and at some point, my interest had changed in some way, and I never finished it. So I'm looking forward to going back, and I hope the next time I read The Metamorphosis, I'll be reading it as my primary reading. But so Ovid is the next Virgil. He's the great poet of Rome. He's famous. He has notoriety. Everybody knows his poems. They're looking forward to his new volumes. Augustus Caesar knows of him and is reading his poetry. Puts out The Metamorphosis. It's this landmark, huge event, met with fanfare. And then Ovid, the very little that I know, I don't really know the story, but he's exiled. He's sent to the coast of the Black Sea, far away from Rome, far away from even the most distant, thinnest threads of Roman culture. From what I understand, he heard something or saw something that he should not have. And this exile was an exchange. It was a bargain, because whatever the alternative would have been much worse for Ovid, for his family, for his fortune. And so in some part, from what I gather, Ovid agreed to this exile in exchange for his loved ones to stay in Rome and to not be executed, to not be exiled, to not have their fortune taken away from them. And Ovid lived the rest of his life away from his home, from the city that he loved, from the fans that loved him, and from his family. And he continued to be a working poet, writing poems and letters that were still being sent back to Rome, still being read and enjoyed by the reading public. And that's what this book is. I started reading the first poem, or the one significantly long poem of the book, called Tristia, and it seems like the rest of the book are these letters written in the same style that I'm familiar with in Horace, where they're letters written in the form of poems. But it's incredibly sad because he wrote these poems these letters begging for forgiveness, please, to be able to go home, and it never happened. He died in exile. And the first poem, it starts, "Little book, no, I don't begrudge it you. You're off to the city without me, going where your only begetter is banned." And so he's talking about the poem that he's writing, this publication, a work of creative art that is being sent to Rome. The poem is being sent to Rome, while the poet is still in exile. It goes on from there. I don't know what else is in the poem, but it's heartbreaking. And so those are the three Christmas books that I got for myself for Christmas. The Poems of Exile by Ovid, The Flowers of Evil, a brand new translation from Baudelaire, and the landmark edition of Xenophon's Anabasis. So, very happy to have all of these books. A nice end of the year festive indulgence. So, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about any of these books. Let me know about any books that you're buying for yourself, because it's a time for giving, even if it's yourself. So please leave a comment if you'd like. Thank you for watching, and take care. Bye.